Hello, hello. It is a beautiful sunny day in Ljubljana, and a sunny day in Ljubljana for me means that I can record a vlog or a video for my booktube. And today I will be starting a vlog. I actually had made a recording last week. It was supposed to be like an introduction video, but in the end I decided not to use it and decided to start with this video. So welcome to a new vlog. How will this vlog develop and what it will become, I still don't know. So it will be a surprise for you as much as it will be for me. I wanted to talk to you about several books that I am reading and have read. Two of them I have read and two I am currently reading. First one that I have read is A Helping Hand by Celia Dale. I got this book several years ago when I was watching a video from Jen, and she recommended this book. I believe it was like a recommendation for a summer read. It was a delight to read it. The plot twist at the end was just fantastic. I loved every bit of it. I also love the fact that one of the main characters in the book was an elderly woman, and it was very, very interesting to follow the story and see how her character develops and eventually what happens to her. So, what this book is about, in case you are not familiar with Celia Dale's novel. The novel starts in Italy, where we meet a couple, a married couple, who are on a vacation, and they meet an elderly woman who is also vacationing with her niece. They struck up a conversation and they kind of start this very odd friendship. And throughout their communication and meetings in Italy, you have a sense that the couple, that they're trying to find out about their lives and their relationship in order to exploit it in some way. Once they return to England, they continue their communication through letters. And because the niece had expressed complete dissatisfaction with her life because her aunt is a rather annoying elderly woman who doesn't respect boundaries and doesn't respect her space. She cannot have a partner because of her or a potential husband. She can't have her friends over. So she technically has her life on hold because of her aunt. So the couple, they decide to offer their help or offer a helping hand, and they offer their own house as sort of like a refuge for her aunt, where they essentially propose that she moves in with them and that they will take care of her. So this is the premise of the novel, and from then on we see the development, the slow escalation of the situation and what their actual true intentions were. I really loved the character development in this novel. I enjoyed in particular the development of the character of this young Italian woman. And overall, it's one of those novels that really helped me reflect on the change of language that we see in contemporary novels today and the novels that were written in the 20th century, mid-20th century. That was the first striking things that I've noticed right off the first page, how the language is very different. It is more sophisticated in a way, I would say, not sophisticated in this snobbish way, but you can tell that even the dialogues and the way the people communicated at the time is very, very different from the language that we use today. And in that perspective, it was very interesting for me to kind of reflect on that aspect of novel writing and how novels are written today and how they reflect the language of the contemporary time, and how the change of the language and in general, the vocabulary that we use in our everyday communication has shrunk. I would recommend this book. It's rather light. It's a fast read. You will go through it maybe in a day or two. It's really a novel that holds you, it grips you, and it doesn't let go until you come to the last page. So highly recommend Celia Dale's Helping Hand. Next novel I read, and this was actually a novel that my friend got for me some weeks ago. We exchanged recommendations, and I gave him some books to read while he was here on an exchange. And I also bought a book for him that I thought it was one of my favorite books that I read some years ago. And he got me one of his favorite books, and that's John Steinbeck of Mice and Men. I thought I had never read anything from Steinbeck, and then I looked at the back of the book. There are all the works that he has written and that have been published, and I saw that there was a novella called Pearl, and I've read that novella about 15 years ago, or maybe less than that, maybe 10 years ago, and I remember it being, it kind of left a mark on me, and I still remember it was a really, really sad novella, and I don't remember the details, but I just remember this extreme sadness that it left inside of me. Of Mice and Men, for those of you who don't know, follows two friends who are looking for work at a farm in California after an unfortunate event where one of them had, without consent, touched a woman's dress, and the woman supposedly accused this character of rape. And they kept hiding in the sewers in order to avoid getting lynched. So they had to leave the farm where they were working previously and seek out a new farm and work there. But the main premise of this novel is the novel actually centers around the dream that two of them have, and that is to have a small farm of their own where they can grow their crop and raise animals. I really enjoyed the style of writing, the topic that Steinbeck explores. It's really sad novel. I was rather upset while reading it. It also has trigger warning for anyone who hasn't read it and would want to give it a try. It has a lot of animal cruelty and animal abuse in the novel. That was a little bit disturbing to read. In some sense, I understand that this is how people on the farms when they lived treated animals, but I mean, we still do treat animals horribly. But it's very, very difficult for me to read about that. But I persisted and I pushed through those parts in the novel. They are not essentially very gory and gruesome. It's just the facts that are shared with you, what happens to animals and how they think of the worth that animals have and what humans were willing to do in order to prevent certain things taking place. Again, character development was brilliant. I loved the dialogue. I would have appreciated if we had more description because Steinbeck's style is just beautiful to read. But the dialogues were just so authentic in a sense that when I was reading the dialogues, I could just picture each character in their own physical look and the way they speak and how they perceive the world and how they move about it. So it was very interesting how picturesque the whole novel was. I would recommend it unless you really can't read about the animal neglect and abuse. I actually am thinking now even to read some of his other novels, The Grapes of Wrath. I think I will try that one because it explores the class struggle and inequality in the US during the economic crisis of the 1930s, the Great Depression. So that's Steinbeck for you. And next book I have here, I'm just looking, I didn't take the other one, I will get it. Next book is Natalie Diaz, When My Brother Was an Aztec. This is a collection of poems that was published in 2013, and I am going through this very slowly. I'm reading maybe one poem per day or two poems because they're very dense, they're very packed, it takes a while for you to kind of, well, it takes a while for me to kind of understand where she's going. It's basically an exploration of racism and in general indigenous life in the racist society in US. So she explores her own childhood, her indigenous background, how she was bullied relentlessly as a child. She also explores the indigenous identity and colonialism and genocide of the indigenous people in the Americas. So I recommend this. It's really beautiful written. It is also exploring different poem writing styles. It doesn't have a consistency in that sense, and I really enjoy that because if it had, I think it would just be overwhelmingly repetitive. But she has taken upon herself to grant each poem a different format, and I really appreciate that. Next book, okay, I have to get this one. Hold on a second. So next book pairs up very well with the collection of poems, and that is The Question of Palestine by Edward Said. This is a republication by Fitzcarraldo. I believe I talked about this book in one of my previous videos. I am reading it for the book club that a writer, not a poet, a writer, Saleem Haddad is organizing online. I think it's a first week of March that the book club is happening. I still have to check the date. I am only on page, so far, 71. It's rather dense. It's very well written. It's brilliant piece of text if you want to understand the history of the occupation of Palestine. And I highly recommend it. Said just writes beautifully. I don't think I've picked up any of his books that weren't so striking and so impactful that have changed my understanding, that have expanded my understanding of imperialism and colonialism, particularly in the Middle East. So far, I am really enjoying this. I will talk more about it when I finish it. And hopefully I will have also maybe additional comments from our book club for the vlog, depending how I will wrap this up, but maybe in another video, if not in this one. So that's it for now. I shall report back when I finish some of these books. Maybe I will also in the meantime start something else. But stay tuned. Hope you have a good day. Bye. It is a sunny day in Ljubljana again this week. We had a whole week of sunny days. Can you believe that? In Ljubljana? I cannot. And sunny day, hold on, I think that is post office.
So that was a postman. I got a package. I will be opening it now. If I can do it with one hand, I think I can. Hold on, maybe I'll just put this down. This is not my package. I just opened my flatmate's package. She ordered the book. I didn't even look at the name on the package. Oh my goodness. She's gonna have a laugh about this when I tell her. And I was like, I didn't order this book. Why did I order this book? And then I look at the name and I see it's her name. Oops. Well, Una, I by accident opened your book package, book mail, thinking it was mine because I'm mostly the one ordering books here. But hey, there are surprises every day. So, what was I saying? It's a sunny day, so record time. I have some updates for you regarding this reading exercise, reading vlog, reading challenge, whatever you want to call it, that I'm doing. So I made some progress. I made progress with the question of Palestine. I have read how many pages? Hold on. I have 170 pages. I'm almost done with this second part of the book. And then I'm going to be reading the third part, which is towards Palestinian self-determination. I will give you my thoughts in the final wrap-up. Next book I have an update on is Natalie Diaz, When My Brother Was an Aztec. I also made some progress here. I read how many pages? I think it's 50. Yeah, 50 pages so far. And I am really enjoying it. I am reading again like just one or two poems a day. And then the other book that I made progress with is Enter Ghost. It is very strange. I don't even remember why I put it down. I do remember. I felt rather overwhelmed by the topic that the novel is covering. It's very multi-layered. It is covering several different themes. So at the time when I was reading it, I just didn't feel like picking it up. And then as the time progressed, or as the time passed, it just felt more and more difficult to pick it up. But I decided to do it, and now it's going like rather fast. I am on the page 145. So I think I will finish this within next week or so. And then I have another news, and that is that I have yesterday received a book from a Australian Palestinian author, Saleem Haddad, The Sunbird. A colleague was traveling for work to Australia, and she was kind enough and bought me the book. I asked her if she could do that for me, and she went to a bookstore in Sydney and got the book for me. So I'm very excited to read this novel. I've been following Saleem Haddad for some time on Instagram, and it would have been too expensive to order it directly from the publisher. I think they calculated it was something like 30 or 40 euros, while buying it in Australia, it was 12 something euros, and then a colleague brought it for me. So that's for the update today, and I will talk to you again when it's a sunny day in Ljubljana. and I have also an update.
Hello, hello. It's been few days, even though I am possibly in the same outfit. I don't know. It's my pajamas. It's 2 p.m. It's Tuesday today, and I am going crazy here in the house with this paper that I am writing. So I felt like I needed to take a little break from that in order to decompress and further brainstorm what I'm going to do and how I'm going to continue writing this paper. I only have a few days left until the deadline to submit it. It's next week, that is March 3rd. And I am, oh God, I'm just completely overwhelmed by the anxiety over this paper. I have no idea whether it's any good or bad. I'm sort of Frankensteining it from different segments of different ideas, and I'm trying to incorporate them into one. And so far, I have written 2 separate parts, and I have to write a third, which needs to connect the previous two. And then I have to do conclusion and introduction, which are not difficult for me after some time, after writing, after finishing the main parts, that is the body of the paper. But rather, this third part is going to be very challenging, as I have to put together all these previous ideas and basically elaborate my hypothesis or elaborate my thesis that I developed in this paper. So that's going to be interesting. I can't say that I'm not enjoying this process, but I'm working in small segments. I do like maybe hour or 2 hours of writing and reading, and then I take breaks in between because I find it too exhausting. I sometimes have been also taking afternoon naps. So yeah, that's the update on the paper. I don't even know why I started recording this. I guess I just felt like I needed to talk to someone about this, express the frustration over writing something that you continuously question and doubt. So I'm talking to myself, but hey, maybe someone out there will relate to this process and will be able to chime in. I would appreciate some encouragement. Do I have anything else to report regarding the reading? I don't think so. Since I recorded the last video, I haven't really been able to read much of the books that I am reading for either pleasure or further or for my PhD. I haven't actually read anything. I have still to make adjustments and corrections based on the suggestions from the commission for my disposition. It's just like two small aspects that require tweaking. It's nothing big. I just haven't had the mental capacity to do it, as I'm not able to jump between two segments or two different topics that I'm tackling. Well, they're sort of interrelated. The one that I'm writing for this conference paper and the other one for my disposition, they're in some way connected, but at the same time they cover also an additional layer that is completely not related. So yeah, I don't really have much to report there. I just wanted to give a short update, and then I hope that by the end of this week I will be able to wrap this vlog. If not, we shall see when will I do it. I just don't want to do it until I read the two books that I have mentioned. That is novel by Haddad. Is it Haddad? Oh no, Hammad, Isabella Hammad, and Said's Question on Palestine. So I would really like to have like a formal reflection on those two books for the end of the vlog. That's it. I think I'm gonna go and buy some chocolate now. I'm craving something sweet. I'm probably gonna keep writing after that. Okay. Kivita, do you have something to say for the camera? Do you have something to say? Oh, Natalie. Oh. You just want some pets. It is time to conclude this vlog. Today is March 17th. I think I started filming like a month ago. I don't even know how long has it been since I made the first introductory video. I haven't looked at any material that I recorded since I recorded it, and I just want to edit this and put together and see how it looks. I don't even know whether I will upload it. If I'm satisfied with the final outcome of
whatever the hell this was, I will upload it. The primary idea was to do like a week of reading, like sort of just to see how much I do and what I read. But then it turned out that that week was a little bit all over the place, and I didn't manage to read much, so I wouldn't have had much to say. So I don't even know what was the point of this? Where did I start like to track my reading for 1 week and then I didn't? Oh, I'm all over the place. It's a mess. I've had a lot of obligations at university. I also have once a week lessons in Slovene. That is why I am actually recording today, because some time ago I finished the lesson and I had lunch and I wanted to record today. Today is Monday, by the way. I wanted to record today, but the weather is absolutely dreadful outside, so I had to turn on the artificial light because otherwise it would have been all pixelated and ugly looking. So, what should I conclude with? I've been yammering for 2 minutes now. The books. Yes, hold on. Another book. So I managed to read the 3 books in the last month. God, it's pathetic. 3 books. I mean, it's okay. I don't really. It was more like I think I had a huge problem picking up and starting again the same book. And over the course of time, I realized the more time passes between the last time I stopped reading and the next time I want to read again, the more difficult it became to pick up a book. And it was more easy for, I don't even know what was, the book wasn't bad. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't like overwhelming me in any particular way. It was just that I was so feeling out of touch with reading that it just became like a burden to read. And I have experienced this before and I hate when it happens. But then I would pick it up and I would be actually reminded why I enjoyed the book and why I love reading. But then I would put it down, and then if several days would pass in between, it would be the same process over and over again. And I don't know if it was the stress or the obligations or stress and obligations, but reading wasn't helping me decompress from the stress that I was going through at the time because of various reasons. So I think that was the main issue. So I managed to finish the collection of poetry by Natalie Diaz, When My Brother Was an Aztec. It was a beautiful book. It's definitely eye-opening to see these struggles that the indigenous population in America goes through. She talks a lot about the family dynamic, the abuse, drug abuse. She also has some poems that are related to certain events that happened in the past in US in regards to indigenous people. She explores her identity and this idea of the identity as being neither here nor there, like you're stuck. She's trying to figure out, I felt like in some points that she herself is trying to figure out who she is and where does she fit in the overall scheme of American identity. It was very interesting to also see her explore the internal familial dynamics between her father, and her brother. I don't know if this is like based on her own experience. I would assume it is, but she talks a lot about the addiction, drug addiction that her brother has. I don't know. I'm not sure if he's still alive, and how the conversation around this was happening in the family, how her father from time to time would actually avoid calling it in a certain way. That was very eye-opening. I felt while reading this poetry collection that poetry can do so much emotionally, even more than some novels that I read. And that was one thing that I completely forgot, because I haven't read a lot of poetry, especially not this kind of dense poetry style, which is more, it looks more like it's sort of novel writing. It's not the classical poetry that you would find in like these sort of huge paragraphs. Let me show you. Can you even see? Oh, yeah, you can see. She does experiment with format. It's not the same throughout the book, throughout the collection, and I appreciate that because it really takes away from the heaviness of the poems themselves, because some of them are quite densely packed with emotion, information, and just history of brutality of colonialism, that it felt kind of relieving to me if the next poem was written in a different way than the previous one, because it, especially if it was more like in this classical style of poem writing. If you can see this like this. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm really happy I decided to get back into poetry reading this year. I have also another collection that I started reading during New Year's when I was sick, and I read I think half of it, and I haven't finished it yet, simply because I wanted to finish other books. One thing I've noticed during this experiment, or that was supposed to be for a week, and now it's been a month, is that the more books that I have started and not finished, and when I would look at that pile, it would give me some kind of anxiety. And the more I look at it, the less I would want to pick up a book. And I think that was also the reason why I struggled once I would put the book down to pick it up again. But hey, first world problems. So next one is Enter Ghost by Isabella Hammad. I started this in January. I read, I think, about 50, 70 pages in the first week of January, and then I just left it, and I didn't read it for almost a month. And that was a bummer, because then it took me another month to finish it, simply because of the obligations and because of the previously stated concerns, and just overall this feeling, overwhelming feeling of, I don't even know, dread. I don't know what it was. So what is this book about? It's about a young Palestinian woman who is going back to Palestine, historic Palestine, to visit her sister, and she gets sort of pulled in to play, to participate in a play that the local theater is organizing, and they are preparing Hamlet, and they are struggling finding actors. She's actually an actress herself, so they are struggling to find someone who's going to play different roles. And she gets pulled into it because the woman who's directing the play, she's actually a friend of her sister. She was planning to have just a vacation, but things go in a different direction. She ends up being in this play. And I just really enjoyed this book. It explores again, familial relations, a lot of secrets, um, complex internal family dynamic, and I just enjoyed the relationships that were explored between the actors, like the social dynamic that was explored between them, the internal group dynamic. And it was just interesting to see how such a simple thing as an organizing a play and having rehearsals for, I don't know, 2 months or whatever the timeline was, how complex and complicated it was to execute in Palestine slash Israel, simply because of all the restrictions and all of the things that you cannot predict. You might assume they will happen. You hope they don't, but when they do, you don't really. You try to organize yourself and prepare yourself for those unexpected moments, or expected slash unexpected. But it doesn't really work always the way you think it will. And it was just so much labor and energy that the rehearsals took from them, just the logistics of it. It was mind-blowing. And for me to see them persist through the whole process despite all these difficulties and challenges that they're faced daily was amazing. It was, I think, the struggle for any ounce of normalcy in the occupied territories is so big that when you read it, like you can feel this the weight of it on your shoulders. But I don't think we can still imagine the magnitude of these difficulties unless you actually go there and experience them yourself. So I thought it was brilliantly done. The one thing is this format. I bought this book when it was just published. Now it's published in a smaller format, like the pocket format, let's say. And I don't think I will ever buy a book that's published in a format like this one, because it's so impractical to carry it around. It's just heavy to hold. I think some hardcovers were more practical for me when I was reading them than this book was. I just didn't enjoy this, and I really don't understand why publishers are choosing this format. And I've seen it a lot, especially in new releases. And then you have to, of course, wait for like a year or two if you want to get like a smaller paperback. So that was kind of like the negative aspect of this publication, but you can find a smaller version of it now. Next one, I read The Question of Palestine by Edward Said. This was for the book club organized by Saleem Haddad, Palestinian author, queer author. He has written a novel called Guapa. It was published by Europa, so if you are interested to read his work, you should check his novel. He has also written and edited different publications. I think one of the Coma Press publications, maybe he has written something for it, maybe like Palestine 100 plus, or some other Coma Press publication. And now he has been the editor of this newly released collection of poetry, different kinds of art and fiction, non-fiction. It's called Sumud. It's about the Palestinian resistance, everyday resistance. And I am actually planning to purchase that and read it. So I want to first thank Saleem for organizing the book club. And yesterday was the official book club on Zoom. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed how he guided us through the text with his questions and reflections. I also thought it was very interesting how other people who participated in this reading perceived the text and how they understood it, what was the most striking part for them, and their own understanding, how they to see they were a lot of them were talking about how their own understanding of Palestine and history and just in general, having access to information about Zionism has changed over the years. So this book is basically what the title says. Said is exploring different aspects of what it means to be Palestinian, the history of Palestine. He's exploring Zionism. He talks a lot about Zionism, what Zionism is, and especially what Zionism means for Palestinians. So he's really trying to give a Palestinian perspective on the whole situation. And this text was originally published in 1979. So there's a lot of talk also about the realpolitik at the time that was happening. That's the last chapters where he speaks of the relationship between Israel, US, and Egypt, Jordan, and he also mentions other Arab countries, neighboring countries like Syria, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia. I mean, the basic question is, and the thesis that he proposes in this book is a two-state solution. And considering when this was written, it is completely understandable why he was advocating for that. And this edition, because it's a Fitzcarraldo edition that was published last year, includes also his, I think, New York Times publication essay that was written in 1999. And it is actually him going back on his proposal in the book, the original publication from 79. And that is just two-state solution. And he's actually advocating for a one-state solution. I found it particularly eye-opening when it comes to the history of Zionism, and just in general, how Palestinians understood what it is, and what, historically speaking, how their understanding changed, how they perceived it in before the 48, after the Nakba, and after the 1967 war, and when the occupation of the West Bank officially started. It was painful to see how creation of Israel has completely excluded Palestinians from deciding how they see themselves in the region. He talks a lot about that, especially during the early period of PLO. And he talks a lot about the evolution of the Palestinian resistance, different fractions, understandings. I believe that if you are not familiar with the history of Palestine and Israel, that relation, and how it all came about, that this would be a good book to start with. It is written in a very accessible language. Although it is an academic work, I don't think it's complicated in any way. I don't think it uses this overly academic language. It is very well researched and thought out, but it was written for the common folk. And I feel like this book, because it's written in English, it's obviously written for the Western audience, in particular for Americans, and I highly recommend it. Saleem has also said that he will probably organize another book club, and I would be really looking forward to take part in that. So yeah, that was the question of Palestine. Do I have anything else to add? I don't think so. What comes next for me, reading wise, I will not reveal it now. I'm just going to be a woman of mystery and maybe save it for the next video that I will do. What will be the next video? I don't even know that, as everything depends on how much time I actually have to read things that I want to discuss in the vlog. Hopefully, there will be less doom scrolling in the next period. I do want to say one thing that I noticed about my reading. Always, in last several years, this is what I noticed. The beginning of the year, it's always the worst time for me to read. I don't know what it is, if it's the obligations, if it's some kind of mental doom and gloom that I go through, but the best time for me is September to December, and not even summer. I think maybe spring from March to June is a little bit better. Depends also, but I think in general the beginning of the year is a disaster. That's it for now, and see you in the next one. Bye.